It's kind of interesting because maybe this is one of the reasons I found myself religious. I haven't self-analyzed my religious journey heavily enough to discuss it because it just happened, which is why I believe it's so genuine. But I did say a few things a few years ago, and I said I refuse to believe in things that take power away from me when I was describing the fact that I don't believe depression is real. So when I feel depressed, I accept that I just feel depressed. I don't believe I have depression because I don't believe depression is real. I feel depressed, and one day I'll stop feeling depressed because I can't have depression because it's not real. A ghost can't haunt you if you don't believe in ghosts. Just a noise. Gives a shit. It's the wind. Whatever. Going back to sleep. So by believing in it, you give it power. I refuse to believe in things that take power away from me. For the same reason, by extension, I guess you could also say I like to believe in things that give power to me. This is the first time I've ever had this thought. I've never pre-thought this. I'm saying it live in front of people, but perhaps one of the reasons I was so drawn to God is because I understood it gave me power. I understood I was a more powerful, formidable man. I was a more competent and dangerous and diligent opponent, a more feared opponent, if I believed I had God on my side. Why would I adopt a mindset that makes me less competitive? I mean, I have plenty of enemies. People are out to get me. We've proved that. Why would I adopt a mindset that allowed me to be less competitive in the heat of battle? If you're going to go into a war, you want to be as competitive as possible physically and mentally. And you look at every war zone. You look at any war zone on earth. I guarantee the soldiers are religious. I bet they believe in God. If you got shot, you'd start praying. If you were on that submarine underneath the ocean, show me an atheist that wouldn't pray. Show me an atheist that wouldn't pray in that submarine. When shit gets hard, you need God. The closer you find yourself to God, the closer you find yourself to Islam. That's the bottom line of it. If you're going to be atheistic like I was and then start to believe in God, and then you're going to default to Christianity like I was because I was raised Christian, and then now I live in Romania, which is the second or third most Christian nation on earth. I think it's 98% Christian in the last census, and it's Orthodox. Orthodox I respect much more than Catholic because the Pope is an agent of the Matrix. And Orthodoxy is still strong and strict, and they still believe a lot of the rules and laws. But as you find yourself closer and closer to God, you find yourself closer to the idea of rigidness and the fact that there should be strict, clear boundaries and guidelines. God says yes and no. God doesn't say, well, maybe if you want to, it's okay on these days. You shouldn't, but no, God says yes and no. God is very clear. And the closer you find yourself to God, you start to want that. As a Christian, I don't know how you answer to certain questions anymore. Yes, as a true believer, but which Christians are true believers anymore? As a Christian, I don't know what the correct answer is to a lot of the degeneracy that is happening in the world today. I don't know what a Christian would say. Would they say, it's fine, we forgive them? Or do they say, that's wrong? What does a Christian say? I don't know. I know what a Muslim says. So it's like, it's the only religion left that makes sense to me. And you say it's a brotherhood and it has your back. I didn't consider that before I joined. I've learned it's true after I joined. Yeah, it absolutely is. There's, like every organization or every group of people on earth, it can go both ways. There's certain people who attack me for not doing everything completely correct, like I'm supposed to, even though I'm a Muslim for 7 months. They're like, oh, you didn't read this part. So you do have those people, but in general, yeah, it's a community. But I never considered that before I joined. I just found myself becoming more and more religious and finding myself speaking to God in my head more and more often, and then being very disappointed with the Christianity I see around me. How can I speak to God in my head and look for his guidance and then walk past a church and it's covered in gay pride flags? It doesn't make sense to me. I just found myself alienated from Christianity. It's like, well, which religion sticks to what it means? Which religion says what it means and means what it says? Because that's the kind of person I am, and I want a religion that reflects my personality. And I want to believe that God also thinks the same way. So you end up drawn to Islam.
Who has God to you?
Well, and I don't want to get in trouble with the haram police. I do think there is one God. I'm not an Islamic scholar, so I have to be very careful what I say. But I think that in Islam, we have a lot of respect for Christians, and we say that on the day of judgment, they will see that they were almost right. They were just a few things wrong, and they're very close. But for a long time, I was an atheist. And I can't tell you exactly when I decided God was real, but one day I just absolutely knew he was. And I think the easiest way I can explain it, the way it works in my mind, is that Newton's third law is that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And if you look at the amount of evil that's happening in the world today, there has to be an equal and opposite reaction. And I'd like to think the force behind the good, which is combating the evil, is God. That's the best way I can explain it. I think if you're doing good things in the name of God, then you make God real. If I feed 10,000 children in the name of God, God fed them. Because God made me want to do it. So God is real. No one can come along to me and say God isn't real. We can argue about if he's a man in the sky, if he's a concept, if he's an idea, where he lives, all these things. And once again, I'll make this very clear. I'm not an Islamic scholar. I'm not actually a scholar in any religion. I'm just talking about how I conceptualize and see God. Is that if the entire world was acting to God's will and it made the world a better place, then God made the world a better place.